Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, who observes, "Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How, then, am I mad?" If, on the other hand, there was something of real value in silence that was being placed at risk by all the noise of our society, what was it exactly? And was there anything we could do to cultivate more of it? Instead of just grumbling and weeping, or at least whimpering quietly to myself about all the noise, what about trying to find something positive in silence to aspire to? Instead of being against noise, what about searching out reasons for silence? That was where my search began, and that search became this book. My first sortie into silence was to the Quakers. Large numbers of people from almost every faith harbor associations between God, the state of godliness, and silence. Indeed, if one were to look for shared theological, as opposed to ethical, ground between religions, a good starting point would be silence. We all might be able to come up with a list of reasons for why silence evokes the holy, such as a kinship with peace and contemplation. But if we scratch the surface a little, the connection becomes less self-evident. Why should something imagined to be infinite and all-powerful be associated with soundlessness? And what about all the associations between silence and indifference, or even collaboration with evil, which somehow coexist with the positive, sacred notions of silence? I wanted to better understand what led people to think of silence as both a route to God and a reflection of God's nature. I visited the Brooklyn Friends meeting, held in a lovely mid-19th century stone building with tall windows cut into walls the shade of lemon frosting. At first, the room seemed almost supernaturally quiet. The shadow of one mullioned window frame slipped in and out of visibility across the light brown carpet with the passage of clouds across the sky. No one around me was even coughing. Everybody sat very still, usually quite straight against the pews, with their legs together and their hands cupped or folded in their laps. More friends came into the chamber, eventually forming a racially and generationally diverse congregation. I found the Quaker strain of quiet most appealing for the ways that it did not seem aimed primarily at the individual self. Though many people closed their eyes, not everyone did, and the silence felt less inwardly focused than communally aware. For what felt like a long time, there was no sound except for the door occasionally opening and closing to admit additional friends, the creaking of the wooden benches as people shuffled their weight into place. After about 20 minutes, there came a digital trilling, repeated several times before being shut off. A moment later, a heavy-set man in his early 40s rose to his feet. He had pleasantly fuzzy auburn hair tied back in a ponytail. "I apologize for my cell phone having gone off. I forgot to turn it off when I came into the meeting. But before it went off, I was thinking of all sorts of worldly things. All sorts of things I had to do were running through my mind, and I was asking myself whether I really had time for this. And then my cell phone went off." Chuckles relayed around the room. But we can't allow ourselves to become too distracted by worldly things from the things that matter. We have to make time for the meetings. He sat back down. Over the next half hour, several other people rose abruptly to their feet and began speaking. At one point, I noticed a man of about 50 with a gray, drooping mustache sitting some distance away from me with his hands on his thighs. As I watched, his denim shirt began fluttering out from his chest in the most remarkable manner, as though there really were a turbulent divine breath quaking to get out of him. What was most astonishing was that I couldn't see him move a muscle of his body. There was just that wild billowing of his shirt.